One thing about this service is that you're always dealing with people above your level. And there's nothing secret in this world anymore. Because when I'm in the service, I can't speak openly about many things. That is the most challenging service that any youngster should aspire.
Hi, welcome everyone. Today we have a truly special guest with us, one of India's most distinguished diplomats, a brilliant foreign policy thinker, seasoned author, and the former ambassador, Mr. T.P. Sreenivasan. He has represented India across the world, from Austria to United Nations. He has deeply been involved in international negotiations, especially nuclear policy, and also played a key role in shaping India's foreign relations. Beyond diplomacy, he is an author, an educator, and a keen observer of technology and governance. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank
And
you.
it's truly an honor to have you here.
Great pleasure.
So, throughout your incredible career journey, you have been traveling from country to country, representing India, working on critical global policies. What is the first thing that led you to this path? Has this been always your dream from the beginning?
Yes, indeed. I thought about this when I was very young because I happened to know one of the earliest diplomats from my own village. And so I did not know what an ambassador is, but I wanted to be one. Those days it was ambassador cars. So I used to wonder how could I become a car. But it is much more than that, as you know. Now there are no ambassador cars, but ambassadors remain. So I didn't opt for the foreign service after knowing everything about it. It was more out of curiosity than anything else. But I can say now, with our experience of more than 40 years, that is the most challenging service that any youngster should aspire to. But people like to be district collectors or IPS officers, etc. Because there is power in that. So people enjoy power. But in the foreign service, there's no power except of your tongue. So it's a very different ballgame. But I have enjoyed it because of the experience. It gives you the exposure that you have. And one thing about this service is that you're always dealing with people above your level. If you are in the IAS, you're always dealing with people below your level. So that's a big difference. You have to adjust yourself to circumstances, prime ministers, presidents. And so it's real challenging, but at the same time, very satisfying.
Okay. So you have been traveling from country to country, and each country might have given you a unique experience. Which of the posting has given you a most memorable or a challenging experience, if you could share with us?
Well, it's difficult to choose because every posting has its own attractions, problems, and challenges. My first posting was to Japan. That was a time when Japan was the top of the world in the early 70s. You know, Juta hai, Japani, or that kind of. So the kind of international exposure to Japan was very big at that time. There was a movie called Love in Tokyo
Yes.
and Sayonara. So I was fascinated by all that. So I opted for Japanese as my language. It was very fascinating. It's a country which, has taught many things to the world. After the Second World War, they are completely beaten. But how they survived it within a few years and became the manufacturing hub of the world. And I saw this with my own eyes. And the thing about the Japanese is that they are very disciplined. Hierarchy is very real. So if you are the boss so the relationship is like a family. And that is the that is the reason why Japanese has grown so fast. But they have their own issues, their problems, family issues, etc. But that was very fascinating. But then I went straight from there to Bhutan, the other end of the world, which is 50 years behind the rest of the world. So, and then you have your own challenges. Bhutan is a neighbor. We have many responsibilities which you don't normally have in diplomatic life because we have a treaty relationship with Bhutan, according to which we are supposed to look after the foreign policy of Bhutan. But we took them to the United Nations, and I dealt with the king and very interesting perspectives on what a neighbor feels. India has a problem with our neighbors, but Bhutan, we had the best of relationship with of any of our neighbors. But at the same time, even they have problems, difficulties with a bigger country. So India in the middle, a big country, and there's such a number of small countries who have to depend on India for everything. So they see us like a bully. That's the problem. We are very nice to them. We make concessions, but they always are demanding because they think you are bigger, you should be more generous. And that's how Mr. Gujral, as foreign minister, started what's called the Gujral Doctrine. He said we must offer them unilateral concessions. But that is not Mrs. Gandhi had taught us. She said we must demand reciprocity from them. If we have to give them something, take something back.
Yes.
But both theories are not absolutely foolproof. It's a very difficult thing to manage the neighborhood. And that is why Mr. Modi, when he became Prime Minister, he spelled out 4 priorities for him. One is security, most important. Then development. And third, neighborhood. And fourth, Indian diaspora. And he has kept these agenda in his mind. So he said first neighbors, but actually after a few years he found the worst were neighbors. All kinds of problems, most unexpected. Maldives suddenly becoming a fan of China, or Sri Lanka sinking and nobody helping them. Even Nepal wanting to have our land. They play one against the other, and China always there. So dealing with the neighborhood is the most difficult thing in our foreign policy. So I was in Burma too, in Myanmar now, and in Bhutan. So I got a very good taste of how you deal with neighbors.
Okay. So as you have been traveling, like being like a diplomat demands you to have long postings abroad, extensive travel ahead. So how did you manage this dynamic career life with your family life? How did you balance that?
I had no challenge on that account. The family was always with me. My first son was born in Japan. And then we took him to Moscow. Then he started making public speeches about Lenin in Russian. So it's all very complicated. But the foreign service is such that they take care of you, all these changes and so on. There is no heavy responsibilities on you, movement, housing. Everything is free in the foreign service. You don't pay for housing. It's what you get is only a pocket money. The rest is all taken up by the government. And so, because living in foreign circumstances, you need a lot of support. It's not like living in your own country.
Sure.
So it's and therefore there's a certain amount of accidents or people losing their balance. This happens when you live abroad. You sometimes imitate. If everybody is drinking vodka in Moscow, you feel like drinking it yourself. This kind of. And so there have been several people who have fallen on the wayside. Because you have to have a very strong character and you should be an Indian to the core. So if you are trying to imitate or emulate other countries, then you lose your balance for the sake of advantages. And temptations are too many because we go out of a very restricted system. Not anymore in India, but when I went out, I was an innocent abroad. So there are challenges, temptations, and some people fall to it. So if you have, like I have done 37 years in the foreign service and still standing when you come home, that means you've done it well. So I'm not addicted to alcohol or anything like that. So, but you need a strong character for it. I keep telling my students who train for the foreign service, I say that in your country you can do whatever you like. But abroad, people see you as India. You lose your name first. Nobody calls you by your name. They always distinguished ambassador of India or representative of India. So you lose your personal identity, but you have a larger identity to which you must be loyal and you must justify it. You cannot do things on your own because you are seen as India, not Mr. So-and-so. So, and that's a very heavy responsibility also.
Yes, surely it is. So you have shared so many of your insights and experiences throughout your writings and books. So if you could share about some of your books and what motivated you to document your experiences and insights in this way.
Otherwise, who will know? So writing is absolutely essential. That's why my final book is called Diplomacy Liberated.
Yes.
Because when I am in the service, I can't speak openly about many things. And but even after you leave the service, you have an obligation to keep the Official Secrets Act. But nobody will tell you what secret you can expose, what you cannot. So when I wrote my first book called Words, 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 it is a quote from Hamlet, you know that.
Yes.
You know, Hamlet is asked, "What are you reading, my lord?" He says, "Words, words, words." That time when I read it many years ago as a student, I said, if I write a book, I'll call it this. So, but my publisher said, what kind of title is that? Sounds like phonetics, you know, words, words, grammar book. So I said, no, I still stick to that. But it worked very well.
Yes.
Because the diplomacy is all about words,
True.
Spoken and unspoken words. What you should not speak also you should know at the right moment. And so it was quite appropriate, I must say. And but every posting I wouldn't be able to choose that this was better. But I spent most of my time in the United States, which everybody wants to. But I was the fortune to be posted 3 times to the US, which is very unusual. Maybe I still hold the record. And therefore, I'm very oriented towards Western life, American policy, and which has been like a roller coaster ride. One day you are top of the relationship, the next day you fall. You know. I can draw a kind of graph. You know. So 1997, I was sent to Washington to manage Clinton's visit to India. He always wanted to come to India. He used to say, "This is my gap in my," and he used to say there are only 2 kinds of people in the world: those who have seen the Taj Mahal and those who have not seen. So he says, "I want to move from here to." So he is romantic about India. And out of the blue, suddenly we blasted a nuclear weapon in 1998. Everything collapsed. He said, "I'll come down on these chaps like a ton of bricks," he said. Partly because his own intelligence could not figure out that we were doing that. He kept asking people, will India retaliate? Because we have not signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And therefore, there are only 3 countries which have not signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And our company is Pakistan and Israel, you can imagine. So, anywhere else, we would not be very close to Israel or Pakistan. When I was in Vienna with the Atomic Energy Agency, we 3 were the best of friends because we had the same problems. They have also not signed the treaty. And when we exploded it, Americans really came down on it. And they were all our friends, you know, diplomatically meet all the time. And 11th May, I went to the State Department to tell them what we did. They, of course, knew everything. And they said, please don't talk. We know you have committed a big error, big blunder. Just tell me how we should punish you. You want to be drowned, you want to be hanged, you want to be poisoned. These are the words they used.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? They said, there's nothing. You don't explain anything to us. They said, please understand why we did it. No, you know, you want to destroy Pakistan. I said, that's the last thing that we want to do. Our challenge is China. And very secretly, our Prime Minister wrote a letter to Clinton because they were all under the impression that there is a India-Pakistan thing. And letter I delivered to the White House because nobody should know. And next morning it was in the New York Times. so we lost China also in the process because there Vajpayee told him that our real problem is China. We need to balance. That's why we are doing this. And they revealed it officially to the world. So it was so nasty. And I even thought that, you know, 3 million Indians will be thrown out of the United States. That was the kind of sanctions. Banks were closed. Visas were not given to Indians. It took us 2 years to normalize relations. And those 2 years were the worst challenges. I was enjoying it, but at the same time, going from place to place, going country to country with the Minister of Foreign Affairs Minister, and figuring out, you know, what we have done, how everybody perceives. Because for us, it was essential to have a nuclear capacity. We had the capability, but we had to test it. But now, after several years, they have accepted, even as a non-NPT country, we are now respectable. So my American experience is the most valuable and most complicated. So I've written several books on diplomacy. One of them is called More Diplomacy.
Yes. So from a diplomatic standpoint, India has grown to become a big technology hub, world technology hub. So how do you see India's growing role in world's digital economy? Like, How do you see India's growing?
Yes, we have done a lot also in diplomacy, in education, everything else. But if you ask me what was the golden years in India's foreign affairs, I would say 1947 to 1962. That was really the golden years. We were worshipped by the world, as it were. See, at that time in the UN, there were only 52 countries. Today, 193 countries.
Yes.
Where were they? They were all under colonial masters. And India, such a big country, and fighting against a big empire, winning freedom without firing a shot, something which captured the imagination of everybody. United States itself fought a war in order to be independent.
Yes.
Algeria, bleeding. Many countries like that. But here is India, such a huge country, diverse, but no firing, nothing. That Mahatma Gandhi, that's why I always say, if you have Mahatma Gandhi, you don't need anything else in this world.
Yes, true.
One man is enough for India to be justified for our greatness. That's why I challenge Modi, saying that make India great again. He was quoting Trump.
Yes.
Trump says MAGA. So Modi went and said, to catch the attention, he said, we are MEGA. Make India great again. And he said, MAGA and MEGA will be mega. This is great press for the press. But what he said was unacceptable, because India, we are not wanting to be great again. We have always been great.
Yes. From the very
That
beginning.
for the Prime Minister to say great again is not very appropriate. But he went by the language and the flourish. Because what I'm saying is, at that time, India was virtually the leader of the UN. Because we prescribed the agenda, we established, and Pandit Nehru's personal reputation. But all collapsed in 62 when China invaded us. Then they said, India is not so great as we thought. Because we are running away. What a defeat it was. We have not lived that time, but it was such a big shock to us, because we thought India and China will work together and conquer the world. And their idea was absolutely different. We had to oppress India to become the leader of the world. And that is a very different. Pandit Nehru died out of shock. So, but after that, we tried various things. That was, I call it golden age, then Mrs. Gandhi. But that was also a time, it used to be an idealistic. We spoke for the truth, looked after friendship, etc., etc. But that the complications of the diplomatic world we had not grasped. But China itself was a big shock, that you had to deal with China. And the world, China is going to influence it so much. And so Mrs. Gandhi started what is called a pragmatic foreign policy, from an idealistic foreign policy to a pragmatic foreign policy. Then after the Cold War, we went to what shall we call a global foreign policy. Because there are so many challenges, and that is Narasimha Rao. We opened out the world, etc. And then we came to the post-Cold War period, where we had not only pragmatic, but also practical. And also we rose because of a technology or education or other things. So apart from being just an ideal world, India became a competitor in the world. And then finally, with Modi, we have an assertive foreign policy. Because what he said when he became Prime Minister was that India has been just looking at the ocean and, watching it. But I want to walk into the ocean and swim. And that's what he has done. He's gone into every aspect of India's thing. And so it's much more assertive and much more effective foreign policy today.
True. And coming to Indian businesses, they are expanding globally, internationally. So what do you think are the challenges that most of the Indian companies are facing today while they are entering globally?
Well, we have people trained in economics and business, etc., in the embassies. So as an ambassador or as a number 2 or a political officer, I'm not involved in this. But it is basically an understanding, because when India grew and opened our market, that was the biggest attraction to the world. Because 50 years we have closed our market. And so there was great enthusiasm for people to come to India every day. Soon after we declared our new economic policy, world was waiting to come and meet in. The number of foreign heads of state who came, they wanted to know how to use these enormous resources of India. 11% growth from 3%.
Wow.
What a challenge it is. And credit goes, of course, to Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh, who jumped into the water without knowing what the water was like.
Yes.
And we succeeded because we had the grit and the courage and the moral strength, etc., to face this new challenge. But there are several countries who keep politics apart from business. Like, for example, you'll be surprised to know Japanese ambassadors are not expected to deal with business.
Oh.
Okay, so the Japanese ambassador in Burma will not even play golf with a Japanese businessman visiting. Because in Japan, there is this thing that if these two get together, there will be danger to the world. But we are not that. We jumped into it, and the government insisted on economic diplomacy for everybody, right from ambassador down to the whatever may be your speciality. First, this thing was to deal with business. And that was a new experience for us. In the old days, businessmen never came to the embassy because they don't need us at all. But now they'll need us as a first visit because we are the ones who have the knowledge and we are willing to share it. And so we contributed a great deal to businesses, but I didn't deal with the nitty-gritty of business. It was basically the politics of economics is what I dealt with. The only economic issue I dealt with throughout my career is the environment, as I was telling you, because there is a huge danger there which was not realized. People are talking about environment as though it is the pollution in the air. You know, that was your idea of environment. There is too much smoke. That's not the problem. The problem is accumulated greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which is affecting the whole population of the world. And unless this is improved, there is no hope for the world. Not that we have improved it, we have done many things. But the essence is, the science is established. And the more you develop, the more emissions you create. And unless you deal with these emissions, the development is not worth it. Okay. So now we have the technology to have environment-friendly technology. But we don't have it. It costs more money. So suppose you have a cement plant which produces 100 tons of cement and it costs you, say, 100 crores. If you have an environment-friendly technology which you have to borrow, buy from other people, it goes up by 10% or 30%. And so how do we meet this cost? Because no country can afford to have the old technology. So new technology has to be funded. So the whole challenge in this thing is the great difference between developed countries and developing countries. So unless developed countries realize that this problem is indivisible, see, the pollution doesn't start at your border. It's all up there, you are sending it, and it affects everybody equally. So unless everybody comes to zero emission, zero carbon emission, then there is no escape for the world. And that is why this Paris Agreement, which is being, praised. And when Trump left it, I said he did the right thing. Because the Paris Agreement was a hoax. Because everybody was told, you volunteer how much you will do. And then the UN will calculate what is the impact of it. And the desirable impact is, it should not, annual temperature of the world should not increase more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. This is established as science. The moment you go off over 1.5 degrees Celsius annually, then you have no future. And now it is 3.5. So which means you are already underwater. So you have to get out of it. And this voluntary arrangement did not work. India, for example, we volunteered certain things. But now the whole game is who becomes zero emission country. So they've all asked us, how many years will you take? So you have to declare. Like China said 2030, American said. So we have said 2070 because we don't have the money to deal with all these issues. And that on condition that at least $2 trillion should come from the developed countries. But The industry in the developed countries do not believe in this. In fact, people believe that this is all a hoax and we are all trying to escape the thing. But the reality is, but then having done negotiations for more than 20 years on environment, I feel that politics cannot resolve it. It's only a scientific advance will solve it. Just like nuclear power. See, if nuclear power has no danger of turning it into plutonium, then you can have any amount of nuclear power. The problem is this is a waste material, plutonium. And plutonium is the most dangerous metal. If you have a certain amount of plutonium, anybody can make a bomb. This is the problem. So now plutonium is being restricted, like whatever plutonium we produce is kept under water permanently. It cannot be touched, So unless you have technology to turn nuclear power from an explosive to diffusion, not an explosion, but by fission, not fission, by fusion. So fission creates a danger. So if you can have a technology which is developed by fusion, particularly with thorium we have in India, but that technology is not developed yet. There is a center in Paris. All of us are cooperating, find out whether fission can be replaced by fusion. Till then, nuclear power is not safe. Similarly here, you must have a scientific technique by which you can go and grab that carbon and bring it down. Science some countries are actually experimenting with it. So all this political drama which is going on, one declaration after other, COP 28, 29, it doesn't do anything. Like for example, in UAE there was COP 28. And what were they recommending? Elimination of fossil fuels. Sitting in Dubai, you are saying eliminate fossil fuels. You are sitting among fossil fuels. And the country was trying to sell fossil to the people when they were at the conference. And so finally, what did they agree? They said, we'll distance ourselves from fossil fuels, which means nothing. And they did not mean it. Like in UK, we had a conference. There they talked about coal. Our existence is on coal. So they want to phase out coal. So 5 days of delegation, we couldn't find a word for it. So we kept saying that phasing out of coal is out. So the conference was about to finish unsuccessfully. Somebody said, why don't you say phase down, not phase out? What does it mean, phase down? Nobody knows. I said, yeah, very good. So we decided to phase down coal. So these are the challenges of economy and politics. But these trade agreements have solved this problem to some extent. But that again, not always very uniform. Now we have agreed to have a trade agreement with Trump. He agreed because we have a record of honoring our commitments. But in other cases, he does not believe in that. So there is a lot of politics and economics, but we have to find fundamental solutions.
And coming to the technology part, cybersecurity has become a major international concern. So from a diplomatic perspective, what do you think? Do cyber threats influence international relations?
Yes, absolutely. So, and now it has become worse because it has become so popular and available to anybody. The cyber technology is available and there is nothing secret in this world anymore. I was taught by my son, who is a technical person. He said, don't write on the internet anything that which your mother, your father, your wife, your children should not see. There is no guarantee. I'm telling everybody this. You think, you write this, who is going to watch? The whole world is bothered about other things. If I write a love letter on the internet, how does it matter? But it's being read by President Trump. You'll never know. So, and this is a big danger because our privacy is completely gone. But still we have the false sense that nobody will see. Millions of people are writing. So, but when you write something, you are caught at some time or the other. And that is where the security matters. So every technology is trying to make it as secure as possible. But we haven't found a way. Even now, cybersecurity is a factor. But it is enormous possibilities. So who doesn't want cyber or internet? You need that. But we have to find ways. When you are thinking that everything is fine, Then there is a Pegasus which you can buy and hear everybody's conversation. So technology moves, dangers increase, then you try to connect it by national policies, etc. But it's a constant struggle because the greatest danger is you can destroy things with the bug which can go into the Reserve Bank of India system. That's it, the end of the country. So we are constantly fighting it, diplomatically, physically, technologically. It's a very danger, but at the same time, nobody can say that we don't want it because the technology is so important.
With countries like US, China, and EU are setting like AI regulations so far, should India collaborate on global AI governance or develop its own independent strategy?
Yes, the UN has a plan. Security Council met on this issue.
I see.
Because the immense possibilities have already come out. So you can destroy the world. So how can you allow that? And so UN Security Council has decided that they will find a means to regulate it. So you have no freedom not to do it. But they have not been formally accepted, that's not compulsory for you. But at the same time, because anything you have to conquer technology. You cannot become a victim of technology. So when first computer came in Kerala, there was a big demonstration. We don't want computers. Now you don't see a leftist MLA without a computer in his hand. So the mindset has to change. First time the steam engine was discovered, they said, oh my God, now what will the people do? Everything will be done by the steam engine. It's not so. Then we conquered the steam engine. So like that, human beings are behind technology most of the time. We are excited about it, then we find a danger, we try to resolve it. This is the cycle.
And also misinformation and deep fake technology are on the rise right now.
Yes.
So how do you see these developments affecting national security?
Well, it can affect very adversely and can be very dangerous. But there, of course, all kinds of restrictions are there. But still, these things happen. And now, with artificial intelligence, you can do anything. You can make Modi dance the whole day. You won't even know it is not Modi. And that's a bigger danger. Earlier, somebody used to send a message and I'm trapped in Paris, please send me $200. Now he will come and say, he'll show you what a disaster he is facing. And you melt and send him the money.
That's how powerful
That's a minor part of it. But that can lead to dangers. Somebody can produce Zelensky and put it together and create a world war, so artificially. So the possibility of damage is immense, which affects all of us, already affecting us. We think artificial intelligence will come one day, but you're already using it. You write your WhatsApp and then they say, can we help you? You click that and they rewrite the whole thing. And if you want to write a novel, just tell them who the hero is, heroine is, what is the situation. And a novel is produced in 15 seconds.
Exactly.
So that destroys the creative capacity of people.
Yes.
When you write a poem, people will think that you copied it from the internet. So it's very, very difficult and it immense problems. So the future, the artificial intelligence is going to be a threat and people think that the world will end because of that, because of misunderstandings and so on. So T.S. Eliot said, this is the way the world ends, not by a bang, but a whimper. So that whimper will be created by artificial intelligence.
And we had a few pandemics before. And these pandemics have accelerated like work and digital transformation worldwide. So how do you see this affecting the global market, locally, globally? How do you see this affecting?
Well, had China not been suspected of creating this, that suspicion is still not removed, we could have handled it through international cooperation. Here people were traveling without knowing where to go, what to do, vaccine, no vaccine. People used to travel to the United States, take a third vaccine. And now they say all this affected your health. People are dying on the street. So no coordination at all. That is because China stopped the Security Council from taking action. In the case of HIV/AIDS, we did that. In the case of Ebola virus, we were able to control them. But this was uncontrollable because there was no international cooperation. And therefore, we are all doing our own things. And the people did not know what the vaccine was like. Because Trump himself was saying, you just drink. You know. So nobody knew. And now we are much wiser. But in fact, you will be surprised to know that President Bush had closed down all facilities to deal with the pandemics, saying that now United States will have no this problem. Then Obama came and said, don't believe this, because it is not that we may not have any viruses, but far away in Africa, a virus comes, and within 4 hours, a flight can land it in the United States. They didn't think about that. And that was a mistake. So now we are learning all this, but only consolation is world survives all this, some way or the other. And that makes you a believer.
Yes.
You always
Exactly.
have somebody up there looking after us. And that we don't know, but that seems to be there is a novel by Charles Dickens in which there is a man called Micawber, Mr. Micawber. So he gets into all problems. You know, he tries to help, make it worse, like that. And finally he'll tell them, but something will turn up. So that is the only hope we have. Something will turn up.
That's the only belief.
Yeah, to keep us all alive.
Yes.
Otherwise, it is very uncertain.
As India is producing much more tech talents nowadays, how should we ensure that we can retain and nurture them instead of losing them to like global companies?
No, but you cannot escape collaboration in technology. So you have to get, we probably are dependent on foreign technology more than we understand. Like, for example, when our nuclear explosion took place and the US imposed sanctions against us, you know, our nuclear and space industry came to a complete halt. Because we are not using lethal material from them. No. A little switch or a little valve, which is not worth inventing the wheel. So we use these things. And these are non-lethal, but they said these are multi-purpose things, dual purpose. So that means you cannot have a knife in the house because it is dual purpose. You can murder somebody and also cut vegetables. So what do you do? So that is the kind of situation that we are going into. So everything that we do has enormous destructive capacity, but we cannot escape that. We are trying to do that. And cooperation is essential for this because we won't understand what an American technologist is doing. So how much do you share? And in all this, the risk is very, very high.
And from your experience in negotiations, coming back to cybersecurity, like what makes cybersecurity arguments between between nations so difficult?
Yeah, because first of all, you really don't know what the other person has. And you have certain requirements, you try to get it, and then you realize how complicated it is. So then you have to go back and reinvent the wheel. You know, so expenditure is much higher. So you have to make a risk comparison. How much do you lose by taking technology from somebody else? And how much do you gain by having a technology? But that needs patience. So negotiations on any subject is difficult. What do negotiators do? I want the best from you and I want to give you the least. Right? Even with your mother in the morning, you ask for 100 rupees, pocket money. She'll say, give me a kiss. And you will not give any kiss. You will just do like this. Isn't it?
Yes.
So you want the 100 rupees, but you want to give as little as possible in return. This is negotiations. So what you need to understand is when you go into negotiations, you understand your own capability. What is it that you can give? And what is it that you can deny? What is it that you need? What is it that you do not need? And that is across the board. Every subject is like that. Simplest to the nuclear, that kind of negotiation. So you try to deny them expansion by restraining. You know, NPT was a major, nuclear non-proliferation treaty was a major restraint on the people. And India did not sign because we thought that if we sign, we'll be signing away our future. So we have still managed to stick to it. So, but many countries, 190 countries have signed the NPT. So you have to be courageous, you have to be knowledgeable. But this cannot be resolved. We have to deal with them as they come.
So before we conclude, as a startup company, sir being a master of vast experiences from leadership in in a global scale, and also many decision-making skills you have gone through. So we would love to hear words of wisdom for us to grow globally as we are aspiring to grow globally.
Yes, I'm not a technologist, so I really cannot answer that question. But what I see is that there is scope for a lot of innovation. Okay, but they also have dangers. That's why I was mentioning 65% of startups have failed. But the other 35% has done marvelously.
Yes.
So where do you stop? So you have to be adventurous, you have to be innovative, but at the same time you have to make sure that there are enough safeguards. But now there is an atmosphere of startups. When I was a child or a student, I never thought of inventing something. I was just studying from the books, particularly because I didn't do any science. But even science students didn't do great things. They went and did an MBA and went to management. But now it is not like that. I go to schools where they experiment with things which you couldn't imagine. And so it is there. And so, but that is to be linked to professions and jobs. Like, for example, Stanford University, which is supposed to be the best university in the world. They started startups about 80 years ago. They started artificial intelligence about 50 years ago, even before we learned all that. And what do? Professors encourage them to start a business. And the professor is given a partnership without any money investment. So a physics professor I know is a multi-millionaire without doing any startup. Because the students are doing it. And they need the guidance. And that I don't think we are developed in India as yet. Because, teachers would rather not interfere in these things, or at all. If they do it secretly, etc. But Stanford University's achievement has been this. The faculty-student collaboration. Because the faculty knows what you are good at. So you encourage that. Take an interest in you. And then find the resources. Now resources are available. And so many of them succeed. Stanford University startups are a history of the world. But we are still in the process. And we have all these false notions about socialism, lack of corruption. All these are problems for us. But if we can get rid of all that, I think startup is the only answer. Otherwise, how do you move?
Yes, exactly. Thank you, sir.
I can't tell you any secret.
Thank you so much for the valuable and insightful advice to move us forward. And thank you so much for your time, insights, and expertise in such all fields. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for watching. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
You have been great.
Thank you.